I heard them clearly, and it was but it was muffled. So I don't know if they had some kind of silencer on the weapon, but I know what I heard.
Chaos in Etobicoke as hundreds run, push, and jump their way from a music festival. Some are even carried away. The stampede followed reports of a shooting, but today police say they've found no evidence of gunfire, recovering a single bullet still in its shell. The abrupt end to the Sands Caribbean Music Festival is still under investigation, with reports of a violent brawl and tonight new allegations of poor planning. Our Ali Chiasson is live at the at the Woodbine Center where the festival took place. And Ali, someone from the event's own security team is questioning their safety preparations.
That's right, Chris. So this woman was working a security guard for the event yesterday, and she tells me she's worked many concerts and music festivals in the past, and she says this is the first time anything like this happened. It's important to note that the Sands Festival had to relocate relatively last minute in terms of the venue. Originally, 3 days before the event was to take place, it was supposed to happen in Vaughan, but then they had to relocate due to unforeseen circumstances to this mall parking lot in Rexdale. This security guard agreed to share her story with us and be interviewed as long as we granted her confidentiality for fear of repercussion. And it's also important to note here that some of the cell phone video from the event yesterday is graphic.
This is going to be hell. We didn't see any type of emergency exits set up. When we first pulled up, we said there's no way this is it. Yeah. This cannot be it.
Can you take us back to when things went left?
So I'll say when the party actually started. So the party technically began at 2, but the actual crowd got there, I'll say, around 4:30. By 5, it was completely rammed. You had to step on people and sidestep to get through people and brush against people. There was no personal space. By that point, I realized we're probably gonna have some problems. I would be surprised if everybody leaves here okay.
You said that was another issue, right? There were so many different security
lack of communication
firms.
So there was no clue what was going on, who's being sent where. So when the MC's calling for security,
EMS link up, EMS link up, please.
We have no clue if someone's responded yet or not. We don't know if we should still proceed to respond or stick to our post. There was too much confusion for there to be any kind of real safety.
Why do you want to get your story out here?
I'm seeing too much confusion online, and especially for the people who were injured, I think it's unfair to say that, oh, they were just minor injuries. There are some people that were severely injured.
What did you see?
Well, I've seen people getting carried out with broken, I'm seeing a bone kind of hanging out of your foot. For example, the gentleman who was bottled over the head.
It doesn't look good.
I'm just trying to find my partner, who I even carpooled there with, who was standing right basically where this man is now laying. Couldn't find her, and then I remember just seeing phones. And I just remember being so disgusted with my city.
So we've been trying to get comment from Sands or the promotion company since yesterday, and we have still not heard back. Chris.
Stunning allegations from that woman tonight, but where does the investigation stand with police?
So the police are investigating the alleged assault where one male was hit over the head with a glass bottle, allegedly, and they are investigating the origin of the one lone bullet found in this very parking lot. Have a listen.
They heard, and some other people heard, what they believe to be sounds of gunfire. So then we spread out throughout the music festival to try and find where the sounds of gunshots came from. We were not able to find any signs of gunfire. We did find one bullet, not a spent shell casing. So originally it was reported as a spent shell casing, but it's a full bullet, so it's still no evidence of gunfire.
Rest assured, though, the police are investigating what took place at the event yesterday. But one thing that is going to be helpful in that investigation is that there sure was a lot of cell phone witness video, as we saw. Send it back to you, Chris.
Tonight, Ali. A successful ending to a massive search effort a few hours north of Toronto. 2 teenagers who went missing in Algonquin Park have been found alive and well 4 days after getting lost in the wilderness. Police say the girls' experience with camping and favorable summer conditions helped them make it through the weekend. Lisa Shing has the latest from the park.
Ontario Provincial Police say the girls were found late this morning. 16-year-olds Maya Murata and Marta Malik from Kitchener, Ontario. That's about an hour from Toronto. They were less than 2 kilometers from where they were last seen in the west end of Algonquin Park 4 days ago, where they were hiking on a trail. Police say they simply got lost in the woods. They were brought back to an OPP command post by plane. Police say they're in good condition.
If it was somebody who had no camping experience, if this was colder time of year, say late fall, then it would be a much more serious situation. But with the way the weather has been, the fact that the girls were out there, they were prepared to be camping in the first place, maybe not for as long as they ended up out there, but they were prepared to be camping. They had some warmer clothing for the night times. They were prepared to be out there. So I think that probably made all the difference in the world.
The girls were part of the Polish Scouting Association in Canada. They were out on a 6-day hiking and camping trip. Police say they had a tent, some other equipment as well, and supplies to last them 1 or 2 days. They were with a group that split off into smaller groups and were supposed to meet with everyone a day later, but they never showed up. And just to give you some context, Algonquin Park is huge. It's much bigger than the province of PEI, so police say there was a massive effort involved in finding these girls, including helicopters, planes, as well as ground search crews.
Our searchers have covered a lot of territory, and not only on foot, but we had, of course, an OPP helicopter in the air, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forests, so that we have covered a lot of territory. But just it took one of our OPP canine dogs, got onto a scent, and located the girls.
The teens are now reunited with their parents. Needless to say, the situation could have turned out a lot differently. So police, their parents, as well as the girls are all relieved tonight. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Algonquin Provincial Park, Ontario.
To Burlington now, where an 89-year-old man was found dead in a pool this morning. The body was discovered at around 6 a.m. on Lakeshore Drive when a neighbor spotted the man floating in the pool from a high-rise and alerted the police. The man was pronounced dead at the scene, and police say that they believe it was a drowning death, and they do not believe that it was suspicious. A man found not criminally responsible for a knife attack at a Toronto military recruitment center will be allowed to take college classes. Ayanli Hassan Ali attacked soldiers at a Canadian Forces recruitment center in 2016. Ali was acquitted of terror-related charges due to mental illness. Today, Ontario's top court granted Ali permission to attend Mohawk College unaccompanied. While being held at a secure Hamilton hospital, Ali has been banned from known military facilities or centers. Premier Doug Ford is promising to end the problem of hallway medicine within a year, but he's facing a dose of reality from within his own cabinet. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley now with why Ford's health minister is admitting that timeline is likely not possible.
Hallway medicine. Scenes like this in Brampton Civic Hospital last year got the attention of Premier Doug Ford.
When we got elected, there was people in hallways across our province waiting to see a doctor for 5 hours.
At the Premier's conference on Thursday, Ford unveils a bold new promise.
As we stand right now, we're down to 1,000 patients in the hallways, but I can assure the people of Ontario, over the next year, we won't have anyone in the hallways there.
That was just 4 days ago, and already the health minister is hedging on Ford's pledge.
I can't put a specific timeline on it.
At a Toronto hospital for an unrelated announcement, Christine Elliott refuses to commit to Ford's one-year deadline.
We're working as quickly as we can to end hallway medicine. The fact is that there's not just one simple answer to it. There's a number of approaches that need to be taken.
The hallway healthcare problem tends to peak in flu season, but it's now becoming a chronic issue in hospitals across Ontario all year long. In late June, the Queensway Carleton Hospital in Ottawa was so overcrowded that it declared a code orange. There were 44 patients on stretchers in hallways and another 100 waiting for treatment in the ER.
Hallway medicine will not be brought to an end by magical thinking, which is what the government is currently engaged in.
If the Ford government is going to solve the problem of hallway medicine, it's going to need to fund more places like this, the Reactivation Care Center at Humber River Hospital. This newly renovated site opened last year in a hospital wing that had been mothballed. It houses more than 200 patients from 6 different GTA hospitals. Typically, these patients are waiting for space in a long-term care home. So this center frees up acute care beds for patients who would otherwise be in the hallways. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
They're either cute critters or diabolical deviants. Whatever you think of them, raccoons are a part of Toronto. Coming up, what makes this city such a breeding ground? And is Toronto really the raccoon capital of the world?
The number of trees that we have is really helpful. Our houses are quite close together, especially downtown. Lots of fences that allow the raccoons to go quickly between yards.
Colette Kennedy is with us now, and Colette, those raccoons will probably be trying to seek some shelter and some cool temperatures in the next couple days as it really heats up.
Yeah, with those fur coats. Those are our overlords here in Toronto, right? That's what we refer to them as. Yeah, with those furry coats. Anybody, in fact, you don't even need that. You're going to be finding by the end of this week, this is really as we're going towards Friday especially, although there'll be heat and humidity before that, but really then is when I see it getting to those oppressive levels, so that's the end of the week. All right, your daily stats here. In terms of our average high, close to 27, 26.3 in terms of what we've seen so far today. Our low this morning, very close to seasonal values, but as soon as tomorrow, we're going to find the temperature getting up into those low 30s, the humidity rising. We get a bit of a reprieve on Wednesday, and I'll kind of explain a bit more about why that is a little later in the show, but for now, there you go with those temperatures around the region. You know, this afternoon, the winds got a little more of an easterly to southeasterly component, and that kept the temperature a little bit cooler for the city, but Kitchener at 30, Hamilton at 30 as well. And just some isolated showers kind of starting to move in, especially having an impact through the overnight hours, more so than we'll be seeing that before that. Could get a few sprinkles in here, but they're kind of drying up as they come. So more so in the overnight, ending before tomorrow morning's commute. And then we get a chance into tomorrow afternoon for some isolated thunderstorms coming back into the GTA. So there's the risk of some wet weather, but we won't be seeing it everywhere tomorrow afternoon, that's for sure. A look at the temperatures tonight, even the overnight lows on the mild side, 21 for your overnight low tonight. Tomorrow, 32, feeling 40 with those isolated storms. I'll talk more about Wednesday and the humidity that will be building coming up, Chris.
All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
Sounds good.
To an active investigation in Toronto now. 2 men are dealing with minor injuries after an early morning shooting in Kensington Market. Police responded to multiple reports of gunshots around 4 a.m. They found the 2 victims near Kensington Avenue and Baldwin Street. Both suffered injuries to their legs and were rushed to the hospital in non-life-threatening condition. Police say there was a party nearby, but don't know if there's a connection. So far, no suspect information from police. And police are asking for the public's help to look for this man after an unprovoked stabbing on the TTC's Queen streetcar near John Street. The suspect allegedly came up behind a man at around 10:30 last night, stabbed him several times, and then fled. The victim was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward, but is warning the public not to approach or confront the suspect. The editor of a Toronto-based publication who was convicted of spreading hatred against women and Jews could see his trial reopened, claiming that his lawyer deliberately threw the case.
Upon sober reflection, I'm realizing that he did a terrible job, and I was entitled to mount a defense. We're going to talk about what should have been done, and the judge is going to decide if what should have been done could have made a difference. Not would have made a difference, but could have conceivably made a difference. And if it could have made a difference, then he has to give me a new trial.
James Sears was to be sentenced today, but instead the judge will allow him to argue his case as to why his trial was not valid. The judge says Sears must provide a list of his proposed witnesses and what they would say. But his critics say it's just another way to prolong the inevitable.
Well, I think what we're going to see, unfortunately, in a couple weeks' time is a parade of kooks being brought up on stage to talk about anything other than the case. It's a classic case of ragging the puck, and that's what he's doing to avoid going to jail. But ultimately, he is going to go to jail.
The Crown wants Sears to serve a year in jail. The publication was distributed to more than 300,000 homes and businesses in East Toronto and was published online. Sears will be back in court August 1st. U.S. President Donald Trump has rejected widespread criticism of tweets he sent out on the weekend, attacking 4 Democratic congresswomen of color. Trump suggested they, quote, go back to their own countries. All 4 are U.S. citizens, and 3 were born in the States. Critics say Trump's tweets are racist, and as Ellen Morrow explains, today, Trump attacked the women again.
President Trump's appearance today was supposed to be about products made in America, but it quickly turned into another moment of stark division when President Trump again attacked a group of progressive Democratic congresswomen, accusing them of hating America.
If you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. And that's what I say all the time. That's what I said in a tweet, which I guess some people think is controversial. A lot of people love it, by the way. These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country. Now, you can say what you want, but get a list of all of the statements they've made. And all I'm saying that if they're not happy here, they can leave. They can leave, and you know what? I'm sure that there'll be many people that won't miss them.
Trump posted the tweet in question yesterday, referring to progressive Democratic congresswomen. He wrote, "Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came?" 3 out of 4 of the women Trump is thought to have been referring to were born in the United States. The lawmaker who wasn't is now a U.S. citizen. All are women of color, and the president's language has been widely condemned as racist and xenophobic. Trump was asked today whether it concerns him that many people found his tweet to be racist, and he said no, it does not concern him because he said many people agree with him.
He relies on racism, division.
One of the lawmakers, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, hit back at President Trump, accusing him of using language that appeals to white supremacists, a criticism the president has also received in the past. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
So all 4 of the female lawmakers targeted by Trump have been highly critical of his administration. They've also all called for his impeachment. The quartet held a news conference late this afternoon, and they did not hold back.
He does not embody the grace, the empathy, the compassion, the integrity that that office requires and that the American people deserve. That being said, I encourage the American people and all of us in this room and beyond to not take the bait. This is a disruptive distraction from the issues of care, concern, and consequence to the American people.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked to comment on Trump's tweets.
I think Canadians and indeed people around the world know exactly what I think about those particular comments. That is not how we do things in Canada. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, and the diversity of our country is actually one of our greatest strengths and a source of tremendous resilience and pride for Canadians, and we will continue to defend that.
I've actually heard that Toronto is the raccoon capital of North America.
People often say Toronto is the raccoon capital of the world.
Love 'em or hate 'em, raccoons and Toronto just seem to go together. More on what makes our city their perfect home is coming up next.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Raccoons can be found in nearly every nook, cranny, and tree in Toronto, especially in the spring and summer months. But is Toronto really the raccoon capital of Canada? Adrian Chung looks into why the trash pandas not only survive, but thrive in Toronto.
They're everywhere, on rooftops, in your garbage bin, even on public transit. They're even bold enough to break into our homes.
Look at this. Yeah, don't worry, I won't take your English muffin.
And remember that time we mourned a dead raccoon that didn't get picked up by the city? It started out as a joke, but then sparked a vigil with flowers and candles and a remembrance photo that went viral in Toronto. It's safe to say, raccoons have become Toronto's unofficial mascot. Some people love them.
They're pretty cute, like 90% of the time.
And others, not so much.
You know, I've never disliked an animal before as much as, yeah, it's awful.
Okay, so our relationship with raccoons is complicated. Is Toronto the raccoon capital of Canada?
You of course want to know, how many are there? And are there more living here than anywhere else across the country?
The truth is, no one, not even the people who study them, know how many raccoons exist in Canada. And we confirm that by reaching out to every major city, province, and federal agencies that could potentially track raccoons. But what we did find out is they definitely don't live in Newfoundland or in the Northern Territories. Biologists say the only time they track animal population is if they're diseased or going extinct. The closest number experts have come to is 100 raccoons per square kilometer in Toronto, but that's an estimate.
Actually, people often say Toronto is the raccoon capital of the world. I think we should claim that title. I'm Dr. Suzanne McDonald. I'm a professor at York University, and I study animal behavior. It's a glamorous life I lead that I actually measure dead raccoons.
I've actually heard that Toronto is the raccoon capital of North America. My name is Brad Gates. My company is Gates Wildlife Control. We've been in the humane wildlife removal business for over 34 years. I was known as the raccoon guy in my neighborhood. Fortunate enough to actually raise a baby raccoon from 2 weeks of age to an adult. I was its mother, basically.
And your raccoon had a name?
The raccoon's name was Mandy, yes.
Brad and Suzanne are among Canada's top raccoon experts. They think there are 3 major reasons why raccoons not only survive, but thrive in Toronto. First, they say the critters are indigenous to this part of southern Ontario and have adapted like few other animals to city life.
They are here only. They're supposed to only be here. They evolved here. They are our North American species.
The word raccoon comes from an Algonquin word, a raccoon, meaning one that rubs, scrubs, and scratches with its hands. Other indigenous peoples across Canada, like the Salish on the west coast and the Mi'kmaq on the east, trapped and sold raccoon pelts. Our part of southern Ontario, particularly Toronto, sitting right next to Lake Ontario, has a lot of waterways for raccoons to get around.
And then we sort of moved in and built up around them, and they just said, okay, and they just kept breeding. But this kind of Lake Ontario with all the rivers that go into the lake, that's like perfect raccoon land.
Secondly, the raccoon is built to survive the city, from their biology to their learned habits to how they seek out new things.
Raccoons, if you put something down that they've never seen before, the first thing they do is grab it. So they have, instead of this trait to be afraid of things, which is called neophobia, which just means new phobia, right? They have neophilia, which means that they like new things, and they will actually approach and investigate new things. They see our garbage cans and they say, great, they have their little paws and they say, wonderful, thank you, you know? Whereas most species would not approach human structures like that.
On top of that, they have no natural predators in a city, and they adapt pretty quickly to their surroundings.
They're one of the few species that learns from their successes and their mistakes. So if a raccoon makes a mistake and it ends up not being beneficial to it, it won't do it again.
Thirdly, we, yes, us humans, have engineered Toronto for raccoons.
Because it's an older city, there's rotting wood, there's structures that have access underneath them. So there's no shortage of that.
The number of trees that we have is really helpful. Our houses are quite close together, especially downtown. Lots of fences that allow the raccoons to go quickly between yards.
There are hot spots, of course, but they're pretty much in every neighborhood.
We follow Brad up into a raccoon's den in an attic.
Hey, Mom, stay away. Stay away.
Where a mama raccoon is protecting her young. Companies like Brad's don't kill the raccoons. Their customers just want them out of the house. Brad brings the baby raccoons out into a heated box to keep them warm, letting them cry. But don't worry, Mom's coming back for them one by one to find another den.
All raccoons have multiple den sites. So even though they're living in your house, they have 5 or 6 in the neighborhood that they've established.
What they also need is food. And in a city of nearly 3 million people, we do a pretty good job of leaving scraps out for them.
They can survive on anything. So if you give them junk food, they like that. If you give them insects, they like that. If you give them fish, they like that. If you give them fruit, they like that. Pretty much everything, they like that. Whereas coyotes, for example, they can't. They have to eat meat.
But Toronto isn't the only North American city with a big raccoon population.
Chicago is a very similar city to Toronto, and they have a similar raccoon kind of population. Some people have estimated Baltimore, parts of Baltimore, with over 300 per square kilometer. So again, those are pockets of raccoon. There are definitely lots of raccoons in Vancouver. There's a large alleyway system behind buildings in Vancouver, and the raccoons will go in the alleyways. They don't really give them a second thought. And certainly, interestingly, I haven't seen them getting into their green bins.
The City of Toronto spent $31 million over a decade on redesigned garbage cans, so-called raccoon-proofed bins. It didn't take long for the raccoons to figure them out. There's an entire industry built on us humans trying to outsmart raccoons.
Basically emits a really high-pitched, supersonic type noise. But this noise really annoys the raccoons.
So, are these guys actually getting smarter?
That's actually a good question. I don't know if they're getting smarter, but they're certainly applying their intelligence in different ways.
It's dinner time.
Every time we ratchet up our attempts to keep them out of things, we're actually making them smarter. So it is an evolutionary arms race that those animals that can survive what we throw at them pass those genes on to their offspring who will also survive. And so over time, we're ending up with smarter, more urban savvy animals.
What's not in any doubt is that raccoons are a symbol of Canada's largest city. We identify with them like no other animal.
These trash pandas sort of appeal to the Torontonian idea of the urban warrior.
They're always teaching me something new. They're outsmarting me in situations. I just love them.
Toronto is a raccoon city, and we just happen to live in it.
I'm Angelina King, live at the bottom of the westbound Yonge Bay York off-ramp of the Gardiner. You think your commute's bad now? It could be getting a lot worse. In just a few hours, this ramp will be closed for 2 months. I'll have more on that and another closure you need to know about coming up after the break.
Get this, in the last 2 weeks alone, the city's transportation services filled more than 6,300 potholes. They keep a record of the repairs online, and so far for the entire year, they've filled more than 130,000. It costs approximately $4 to $5 million each year to fix potholes in Toronto. Last year, they filled more than 240,000 of them. And if you see a pothole, you can report that in your neighborhood by calling 311. Cleaning up potholes is one of the things that'll be tackled starting tonight as major road work kicks off on a busy off-ramp of the Gardiner Expressway. The westbound Young Bay York off-ramp will close at 10 tonight, reopening in mid-September. Angelina King is standing by live at the base of the ramp. And Angelina, this is certain to cause traffic headaches.
Oh, definitely. I mean, for one thing, I've been talking to drivers who are using the ramp today. Some say they use it every day and they didn't even know that it would be closing soon. So starting tonight, the city will be resurfacing the ramp as well as replacing the concrete curbs and barriers. The city says that it'll get the work done as soon as possible, but drivers say 2 months is a long wait. During morning rush hour, cars line up on the westbound Gardiner ramp to exit onto Yonge Street. But come tonight, the Young Bay York off-ramp is closing for 2 months for repairs. It's off limits starting at 10 o'clock until September 16th, a major headache for some drivers.
I'm going to do the side streets, but then everyone else will be doing it, so it's going to be a mess.
Any ramps closing off the Gardiner are a pain.
Which one?
The one you're on right now, 2 months.
Closed? This one for 2 months?
Yeah.
Really? It's gonna be a hard time, man, because we're always around here. So this one, if this one has been closed 2 months, I'll be suffer for 2 months.
And that's not it, because work is being done around the clock on the Young Bay York ramp. The Jarvis Street on-ramp right below will be closed overnight for safety reasons. That starts tomorrow until the end of the month. This is just the first phase of the city's plan to rehab the Gardiner between Jarvis and Cherry Streets.
This is public safety. It's paramount for us, and it's critically important work, and we need to get to it to make sure that the ramp and the Gardiner remain safe now and into the future. This is all part of the city's $2.3 billion plan to repair the Gardiner over 10 years. Expected completion 2026. For now, DeAndrea says to deal with the closure, drivers will just have to leave early and take a different route. If you're coming down the DVP, consider taking Richmond Street or Lakeshore. As well, if you're coming down the Gardiner, consider getting off at Sherbourne Street or at Spadina. Drivers are already dealing with congestion on the DVP. Lanes are closed between Don Mills and Lawrence until October for bridge repairs.
There's construction all over the city. It's crazy.
It's not great to get around here, but you know what? You just put your tunes on and bear with it.
It sucks for the summer, but it's good for the roads. You need to get the roads fixed.
So there you go, a little bit of positivity and patience, which drivers will be needing this construction season, because once these repairs are done, then the city will start the next phase of work. Then drivers will be dealing with closures on the Gardiner itself between Cherry and Jarvis Streets. Chris?
Yikes. Okay, thanks, Angelina. Airline passengers may have fewer headaches at the airport as Canada implements its first phase of a new Bill of Rights today, covering some major common complaints. But as Kelda Yoon explains, the new rules could increase the cost of travel.
Inside the country's busiest airport, travelers have experienced it all before.
I have been bumped a couple of times.
I lost my luggage again. Passengers will now be compensated for both those complaints. Minister of Transport Marc Garneau launched phase 1 of the new bill this morning.
Flying can be a stressful experience for some people, and it is essential to recognize that passengers, when they've bought that ticket, have certain rights.
These include compensation of up to $2,400 if you are bumped from a flight. If your luggage is lost or damaged, you will be compensated up to $2,100. Airlines are also no longer allowed to keep people on the tarmac for more than 3 hours.
Just being bumped in general, it's always a pain, and hopefully these higher compensation will make the airlines think twice before overbooking.
But the Air Transport Association of Canada, which represents commercial airlines across the country, also warns
the fines are very, very high,
And this will lead to an increase in the cost of traveling in Canada. It's inevitable.
The association is going to court to try to quash the new bill.
I was surprised, in fact, a bit disappointed that the airlines should come out challenging something that is fundamental, which is passenger rights.
Travelers at Pearson today do seem generally happy about the new regulations.
I think they're great. It's about time.
Though one expert says it will take some time to see just how well the new bill actually works.
There's a gray zone there for the airlines where they can claim that something, that they don't owe compensation because an issue was out of their control. So we're going to have to see how often they try that. We're going to have to see how good the government's audit function is in catching them when they do try to get away with that.
Phase 2, which includes compensation for flight delays and cancellations, will come into effect in December. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
It was disgusting. They were hitting me in the face, like flying in my ears, like on my clothes, everywhere.
It's fish fly season in Windsor, and they are wreaking havoc on a local baseball diamond. We'll bring you that story coming up. I feel like we should have run a graphic warning label on that video, because I don't know if you've ever lived in a city with fish flies before. They are disgusting.
Yeah, well, I thought it was rain. That's what I thought the image was until I got the description. Then, yes, I was also disgusted. Hard to play baseball, I'm sure, in all of that. It's going to be hard to do just about anything by the time we get to the end of this week. And I just mean because it's going to be oppressive in terms of the heat and humidity we'll be getting into, especially into Friday. We'll see things, the humidex up there in the mid-40s. So it's really going to be significant, can even be dangerous for sure. In the meantime, our overnights, so it's not just that we're going to see heat building in terms of our daytime highs, mild overnights too. The lows in the low 20s. We should be around 15 at this time of year. Summertime pattern, what I mean by that, when you get this kind of humidity into the afternoon, you get some of that lift and some convection, and we see some thunderstorms development. Not everywhere, but it happens. That's the summertime pattern. We're seeing quite a bit of that this week. And yes, hazy, hot, and humid. For now, 26. That's what we have in Toronto. This is just a bad cell in there over at Kitchener there, so don't worry about that. But it feels like we're at the low 30s. We're going to put another 10 on that for tomorrow afternoon. The humidex about 40. So a few things going on here. You can see the lightning strikes. I've got them on moving towards Sarnia, southwestern Ontario. This is weakening, but a few little sprinkles even earlier than I had anticipated, so that risk into this evening coming through the area. But it's really more so that we get into some isolated showers overnight tonight into those wee morning hours and then gone by tomorrow morning. But then into tomorrow afternoon, some isolated thunderstorm development coming back through the area. So just kind of know that, and know that on Wednesday, it'll be a bit of relief in terms of a little more cloud cover, keeping the temperature down a bit, but there's also going to be more widespread shower activity into Wednesday. However, by Wednesday night, I see that kind of clearing out. The precipitation, anyway, clouds may linger a little bit longer. Through the GTA, then, overnight tonight, there are your overnight lows. If you don't have air conditioning, it's okay, but not really a lot of relief, and certainly not feeling it tomorrow as those temperatures get up there into the low 30s. So that's why I say that humidex at about 40 with isolated afternoon thunderstorms tomorrow. Wednesday, more widespread, but towards Friday, I want to point out the temperature, 33, the humidity, because those dew points will be so high, feeling like we're in the mid-40s. We may see some heat warnings going up for us. For now, Chris, they're just into southwestern Ontario.
Yeah, that is starting to approach dangerous levels.
Yeah, it absolutely is as we get towards the end of this work week, for sure.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
All right, as we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX was up by over 22 points. The Dow Jones was also up by 27, and the Canadian dollar traded for an average of 76.69 cents US. Well, It's the time of year for road trips, barbecues, and in some places, fish flies. Every year, the insects descend on many lakeside communities. Now, to be truthful, they are harmless, but they can be a nuisance, and that was certainly true at one baseball diamond in southwestern Ontario last week. Sanjay Maru tells us more.
The Forest Glade Baseball League is hitting the tail end of its season, and that means kids are looking to fit in as much playtime as possible. On a typical night, this is the scene during game time, but last week it was a different story, as the bright lights attracted this giant swarm of fish flies, forcing the game to be stopped just after the third inning.
The umpire stood up, had maybe 60 to 100 of them on his back, just completely covered. Kids were in the outfield, they couldn't see. It was mainly called for the safety of the players.
Oh my God, it was disgusting. They were hitting me in the face, like flying in my ears, like on my clothes, everywhere. It was really distracting.
What are we seeing right now? This is your impression of the umpire?
Yes.
Like, he couldn't even see.
He was covered.
But it's not just players feeling the wrath of the fish flies. Some parents say they've been forced to watch games from inside their cars since the bugs have been out in full force.
I know one of the moms had a sweatshirt she had tied like up tight to cover her face, and then she was hopping from her chair.
Teams competed this game without having to call off the game early, but that doesn't mean the fish flies weren't out. For these players, it's just about making it to the end of the season without losing any more playtime, a season which has redefined the term fly ball. Sanjay Maru, CBC News, Windsor.
There are reports a new 007 is coming to the big screen. James Bond's code number has apparently been reassigned. Details on the big spy shakeup is coming up next with Jelena Adzik.
I knew it was too early to promote you.
Well, I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy, so your mistake will be short-lived.
Short-lived indeed. That was James Bond in Casino Royale, and with the 25th installment of the popular series less than a year away, there are reports of a new 007, and Jelena Adzik is here with all of those details. Jelena, I want to file this under "It's about time."
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
You can file it under that for sure. This is something that surprised a lot of people today because there's always been this talk about, is Idris Elba maybe, or Tom Hiddleston? No, it's going to be a lady. A woman is going to be the next 007. But I do have a bit of a corollary here because James Bond isn't going anywhere. Daniel Craig is still in this movie, and he's still James Bond. It's just that the moniker, that idea of 007 as an agent, that's going to a new character, and the character is played by this woman. I'm going to give you a look right now. That is Lashana Lynch, and she is a 31-year-old West London actress. She made her film debut in 2011's Fast Girls, but her breakthrough, definitely that was the role that she had as a fighter pilot in Captain Marvel. So a lot of people do recognize her from that. So the deal here is that the movie opens, and I say opens is not a spoiler alert. It opens apparently with the scene of M saying, 007, come in the room. And instead of him walking in, she walks in. So there's a bit of a twist. And, as far as twists go, there's something else that's interesting here, too, because we have a woman who is writing behind the scenes, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and this is only the second time that they've used a woman for this franchise, and she says she is intent on making this feel modern and fresh. We know that Bond has always been this womanizer kind of character. She's saying, forget about Bond girls. Now we are talking about Bond women, and apparently he does have a bit of an infatuation for this new character played by Lashana Lynch, but she does not have time for him. She's not interested, so the writer says. Anyhow, she's just trying to bring it a little bit more up to date.
And possibly some departures from what we might be expecting.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely, there seem to be that they're weaving in a couple of surprises, but as far as cast members, there are a few that are returning, few possibly new people. There you're getting a look at Ben Whishaw, other people that would back Naomi Harris, which is just so great to see her in pretty much anything she does. Jeffrey Wright. Also, though, very fun to see Rami Malek.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yes, right? I hope he's a bad guy. He would be great at that. And Ray Fiennes, he's always good when he's bad. So, yeah, it definitely seems set to be an intriguing one, but I should mention that this is not coming out until April of next year. So there's a little bit of time for us to keep speculating.
And a lot of A-listers making that speculation even more fun for everyone.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, thanks, Jelena.
See you soon.
This is like a metamorphosis of sorts for me to get out there and show people what rock and roll is all about!
Are you ready to rock? After the break, we take you to the Canadian Air Guitar Championships, and you will not want to miss this one. A Toronto rocker is heading to Finland to represent Canada at the Air Guitar World Championships. This weekend, the Canadian qualifier was held at the Mod Club in Little Italy. Our Daniel Clark got a front row seat.
From coast to coast, they faced off at Toronto's Mod Club Saturday for the title. National champion. They each get 60 seconds to spread the love.
The love of music, the love of rock, just the love of being dorks about everything, right?
Some of them are so dynamic, you'd never guess their day job. Like 13-year air guitar veteran Tyler Cat Friday Gardner.
I'm a welder. When I go to work and I put on my coveralls, that's when I'm putting the mask on.
But on stage, his coveralls are replaced by an 80s-style gold bustier straight out of a Madonna music video.
We jump around looking like goofballs, throwing kicks and windmills, but at its core, air guitar allows me to be something that I don't normally get to be, myself.
Air guitar is also about broadcasting a bigger message.
You cannot hold a gun when you're holding an air guitar.
The air guitar community is tight-knit, but they're also competitors. A panel grades the performers out of 6, and a winner is declared. His name is Ichabod Fane. This Torontonian's victory earned him a ticket to Finland next month, where he'll be repping Canada at the World Air Guitar Championships.
I'm excited, and I can't wait to try and do us proud. I know we took 3rd place last year, and God, I'm going to try for 1st.
Daniel Clark, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, we may not have known his name before, but Ichabod Fane, we will know his name as he represents us proudly in Finland next month.
I love his costume. He takes like the Canadian tuxedo to the next level.
Oh, it's
Shrinks
great.
it.
Would you do air guitar like this?
No. Well, how many cocktails would I have had? Maybe that.
Oh,
You?
man. Sure, why not? I would do that, absolutely.
And especially you get a trip overseas.
Yeah, hey, that's a good deal.
You may want to escape somewhere as we go through the next few days, I'll tell you, because the heat and the humidity are going to be building, becoming much more significant, especially by the end of the week towards Friday. Keep wanting to warn folks about that. For now, it's just overnight tonight, a few little late scattered showers, 21. Tomorrow afternoon, 32, feeling 40, and some isolated storms possible too, Chris.
Yeah, so hot it's not even enjoyable. Well, that is our show.
For me.
Okay, well, you enjoy that. Not me. That's our show for tonight. Bye-bye.